I'm a third generation farmer, 2 generations dairy farm, and now cash cropper, a lot of no-till, cover crops especially. And I just really, I'm farming the way I wanted to farm.
So I grew up on a dairy farm in southeastern Minnesota, and meeting John, we both had the same thoughts that we wanted to farm.
I remember in my early 20s saying to myself, I want to be able to do this, but I want to be able to do other things too.
Ever since I've known John, he's always been a big person of continuing to work for the future generations. So being able to repair his products, his tools, and just working to conserve the land, working on new projects.
Many of the things I do, they're really not in the book, but I just like trying new things. And the whole intent is to keep the soil on the land. I mean, we can make a lot of mistakes, but if we have our soil moving off our property, good luck getting it back. Now, I remember riding in the back of the old Massey tractor for my dad when he was out working the fields when I was a kid. And it was so much fun being there. It was some of the best times I had, just hanging out with Dad, out in the fields and just kind of getting a sense of what we're doing, the importance of being a farmer, producing something. I always, as a kid, would watch neighbors plowing right up to the fence lines, and you get a big rainfall event come through. And we just watched the gully erosion out of there. I like seeing the water running. I didn't like seeing the soil move. And I never wanted that. I wanted to figure out a way to not have that, but still be able to farm.
John actually developed the Eron farmland conservation theory before we even met. It was neat to see that somebody so young had a plan for the future. He's been able to work up the quality of our soils just by doing no-till operations, planting cover crops, and improve the soil health and soil quality.
I put a presentation together for the local environmental group. I showed them how my intent was to collect that excess water that's running off the fields with the soil, and to have it run through the ditches, the waterways and whatnot, and we'd collect it as much as all possible in these large ponds, these stormwater basins at the edge of the field. And then through the summer months, when it get dry out, then at that point, I'd want to reapply that water back on the fields. And the most efficient way to do that is with irrigation systems. So I actually bought some used irrigation, refurbished it, hauled it in, and then we set up some pumps to basically pump that water back. So all the excess comes off the field, goes into the ponds, and hit midsummer when we need the water, we can pump that water back out in the field through that center pivot. Been doing that for well over a decade now. There was a lot of adaptations I had to make as I was going to be able to build it, but I can keep adding to it. There's so many things that I want to do yet with all these irrigation ponds and stuff that I've only just begun to start playing with now.
A lot of the neighbors at first, when he started implementing a lot of these new conservation practices, were a little bit skeptical. Since then, they've taken up a lot of these conservation practices. They're getting to know him, knowing that he's taking care of the land, and that's what's really important.
I realize my vision of how I'm doing it can be significantly different than others, but it feels right to me. I think most of my successes were actually failures out here, and later we found out how much we learned from that. It just fits my personality. I just like doing things just what feels right and try to make a living by that. The whole movement with the farmer-led groups, it's really got a chance to work if people truly invest themselves in it. There's so many things going on in the environment that we can't change, but there's so many things we can.
We actually own a wedding barn that we rent out obviously for weddings, but the main purpose of the original barn aspect was to host agriculture meetings. Through that, our event barn business has really blossomed, but even more so, it's giving us the opportunity to educate people. We are one of the very few barns that are a working farm, and people are so amazed at that. It's really given us an opportunity to provide outreach for those people that aren't used to farming anymore. And one of the big things we like to do every year is inviting grade schools out to our farm to educate them about different types of conservation practices. For us, it's a neat opportunity because we have children of our own, that getting to see them, the light bulb moment where they're learning about something that they can lay onto their parents, onto just their friends, is a neat outreach opportunity that we have.
So when we got the call that we won the award, I was a bit surprised. And, especially when I found out that the interest was with these ponds, because it's just something just so normal to me.
We were very surprised to find out that we won, knew that this was a very prestigious award, and never thought that we would actually be the recipient of it.
It was really neat looking at it in the respects that this is a community award to me. I work so much with the community, with the agricultural groups, the environmental groups. This is an honor for the entire community because we've all worked together for these things.
Never in our wildest dreams did we ever think that somebody so young like us would ever win this award, but it's been a great opportunity. Just being able to build up those relationships with the local farmers, the local neighbors, that people now know who we are.